join you in that one.
No, you didn't. Cool.
Yeah. GM, everyone. Cool. Yeah. This is crazy.
Yeah. What a year.
Yeah. We really didn't expect this year to go like it did. So it's really amazing to see everyone here and just kind of blown away.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. It's amazing.
Cool. Yeah.
Do we have slides?
I think so.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so welcome everyone. Welcome to Lisbon, to Breakpoint. This is our second conference.
Technically. Most people don't know about the first one.
Yeah. And it's really awesome to have everyone here. It's been a crazy year, a year under like extraordinary circumstances that I think really brought crypto into the forefront globally, but was really, just the birth of Solana in a lot of ways. And I'm just grateful to be part of the experience. It's just awesome. So I want to thank, first of all, our ops team, the folks that made all this possible. Amber, Aleftina, what I told them was make it like Burning Man and people will figure out the rest. So I hope you guys have a good time. I think a lot of this is, us finally getting together. We haven't seen each other, for over 2 years in some cases. The team grew from 19 to like 75 during the lockdowns, and for a lot of folks, this is the first time they're even seeing each other, after a year of working overtime. So it's just really cool. So please have a good time. That's the most important thing. So this is actually a picture from our first conference, SolCon. That's Eric in the background. It's before the network was launched about 2 years ago.
The one audience member that you can see in this picture is actually Anatoly. Listen intently.
Yeah. There were a few more people. Most of them were on the slides. And this was, I think, before we even started the first stage of Tour de Sol. And if you guys participated in that, you remember the pain of getting that network out, watching it fall over in 20 minutes and doing it again. This idea of pain was became culturally part of Solana. We joke that our developer experience is eating glass, and for some reason that works, So I'm gonna go through the network overview. Over the last year, what's been really most important to me is this idea of censorship resistance, decentralization, the Nakamoto coefficient, and the core of what Solana is about. And it's been growing at a pace that's just really like blowing me away. So Solana is a global state machine. I don't even like to call it a blockchain. It's fast. In relativistic terms, it's about 4 times slower than it should be. Speed of light, half around the world, is about 110 milliseconds. It's going to get a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get there. But in theory, that could be the theoretical limit of how fast the network goes. And it's cheap. And it's decentralized in the ways that we can measure. And it has done a ton of transactions. So a bunch of those are votes, and that's by design. But a bunch of those are non-votes. They're now application transactions. If you actually look at things like Chain Crunch, there's about 700 TPS of just people using the network. I think that's more than everyone else combined at this point. And most amazing, like the things that we see from folks like Phantom, is we are now at over 1 million monthly active accounts, like actual humans that are signing this stuff. And while like the tech is interesting, the decentralization part is a hard problem. I always had this vision that the really core part of crypto is this idea of humans that can have cryptography, that own self-custody, that understand how to sign these things. And those humans are the actual humans using crypto. Can we get that number to 10 million users, to 100 million users, to a billion users? If you imagine the transformation that happened with the internet when it went from 3-4 million people in 95 that were actually browsing the web to 100, 300 million people in 2000, it's mind-blowing, right? And this is the same thing is going to happen with crypto. When we have 300 million people that are signing, with self-custody, the transformation is going to be like totally unpredictable and exciting. So my goal here, like everything that we're building, is just to unblock those people. How do we make this thing cheap and fast, the cheapest place for them to coordinate? And the core part of this, in my mind, is this idea of decentralization. And if you heard me talk on podcasts or me argue on Twitter, I like to frame it into the objectively measurable parts. Our big brother, Bitcoin, has about 11,000 nodes or 12,000 nodes. And that's important. It's not the hash power that's important, because if I wanted to destroy Bitcoin and I could snap my fingers and erase all those nodes, it doesn't matter how much hash power exists. If the ledger and every copy is gone, the chain is destroyed. Bitcoin is gone. And the other side of that coin is that as long as one copy survives, this thing can continue no matter what. And that's really the core part of decentralization, is that when shit hits the fan, can you still recover and continue? So we kind of frame it in that sense. Maximize the cost to destroy all replicas in a very kind of engineering way to frame that. And maximize the cost to censor messages, meaning the ability of people that are signing to actually send to this network, to actually communicate with it. So Solana is at roughly 2,000 of these replicas. So we're getting there. It's still early days, right? Like, this network is designed to go to 100,000. we have the technology, but the hard part is actually finding the humans that run these nodes, that want to participate in the network, that want to eat glass with us. Some of those nodes in the middle of Russia, people have to drive out in the middle of these places and put up a server in some ASN that nobody has heard of. And that takes work, right? That's real commitment. So the trilemma, the way we like to frame it, is that first part, cost to destroy all replicas, cost to censor messages. And we like to add this bit called real time, because humans that are signing people, we need to use these networks for real human activity. If we're talking about 1 billion people on the planet using cryptography and signing with these things, they're doing something that is important to them right now. Not a week later, not a month later, but actually in the moment, right? They're coordinating governance. They're doing financial transactions. They're playing Star Atlas, right, and participating in the metaverse. That stuff is important to them in that moment. And that takes hardware. So the minimize the cost of hardware is not an option. So what we picked is that 1 and 2. And what we really picked was Max Payne. Because maximizing those things is a lot of work. It's kind of part of our culture to eat glass. Why is there a transaction size limit? Why do you have to specify all the accounts for every smart contract call? Why do you have to code in a certain way with no global memory? All those things are pain for humans, but it's really a way for us to enable a network that is more efficient at its core, what it's doing, at that really core part about censorship resistance. Because if we can scale that bit, that means that we can scale it to 100 million people, 1 billion people, and that's the transformation that we really want to see. And we get to take advantage of some of the smartest people in the world working on the hardest problem, because the way we're scaling this is we're really sitting on top of giants, the people manipulating atoms. I always, as an engineer, think of 2 things in technology. Technology is something that sits on top of Moore's law. If you're building something that has feature overlap, And the thing that you're building gets twice as good every time these amazing folks double the number of transistors per square millimeter. That thing is going to blow away anything else that's not sitting on top of Moore's law. That's kind of an unstoppable wave. That idea of the singularity, it's the things that we can build that scale with Moore's law. So the thing that we're building that really scales with Moore's law is this idea of censorship resistance, Nakamoto coefficient. And this is proven. If you've been running testnet Solana nodes, you can see that there's like over 500 nodes that add up to 33%. People thought that this was impossible. This is 2.5 times the size of a Ethereum 2 shard. It's bigger than most proof-of-stake networks. And that is just only the Nakamoto coefficient in Solana. And the challenge for us is now not the technology challenge, it's the social challenge. It's how do we actually change behavior on this network such that the stake and the way that the voting power and how the nodes are distributed actually maximizes that Nakamoto coefficient. So stake pools are basically that guy Eric, that's him being decentralized. So in those early days when we had to go and hunt for validators, ask him, beg him to go build nodes in the middle of nowhere, these are now community-driven behaviors. And it's growing like crazy. Like this was one of the hardest things to build in software, to make it secure, and to make it scalable such that the work that we were doing at labs, at the foundation, is now effectively decentralized as well. And it's not only that it's just work, there's obvious benefits to it, right? You get benefits of liquidity, you get benefits of participating in DeFi, but you also get the benefit of being part of a community. Like you participating in these stake pools, you actually get to dig into it. What is decentralization? Who's building these boxes? Who are those humans? Like right now, go talk to these people here that are running these validators, shake their hands. They're actual people. And that thing is the community. That thing is the Nakamoto coefficient. It's when the worst possible scenario when something goes wrong, those are the people that are going to recover it. So that connection that you're making right now, that's the glue that runs the network. And that's the glue that grows the ecosystem.
Yeah, the ecosystem has been exploding, and it's been truly beautiful to watch. A real blessing. It's happening on its own. It's across every vertical, every use case, and every dream that we have for what blockchain is supposed to do. And this is what it looked like in March. According to Solanians, which is one of the probably 10 or 15 community Twitter accounts that is constantly trying to keep their infographics updated. In October, this is what it looked like, and I think this is just notable projects, but I think actually Breakpoint is a really interesting point in time because everyone that I know that's trying to keep track of this ecosystem growth is starting to just give up and just focus on summary metrics and just watch it unfold. It's going to get too small, each of these logos, by next year. And also, there's been really hard work of exchanges, onboarding to the network, understanding how to integrate, working Solana, and its code base into their UX flows. And we're really happy about the progress of SPL Token Support across exchanges, which is super important. Almost all the major exchanges now support the SPL token standard. And you can move USDC and USDT between these exchanges. It's kind of a monumental effort. And it's almost complete. It's getting there. There's almost, I think actually over $3 billion of USDT and USDC in circulation, which is just crazy. Like, yeah. I would never have imagined that we would get to that level by this point. And yeah, so if you all are trying to move money around, always look for the drop down. You can choose SPL. It'll be basically immediate. It'll basically cost nothing. You can move money peer-to-peer all around the world and to every exchange. Phantom has been an incredible UX effort to make that initial onboarding of the browser wallet experience as slick and seamless and easy as possible. There are other really killer wallets, but Phantom has been kind of the flagship, and it's just onboarded users so quickly. They actually just, I think, maybe 48 hours before Breakpoint started, crossed over 1 million wallet extension installs, which is really phenomenal. And we expect this to continue, and it's driven off the back of DeFi growth and NFT growth. We struggled to keep this number updated as we were getting closer to the presentation, but another phenomenal outcome of this year is $15 billion of value is locked in DeFi on Solana. And like when we look at this number, we see like hundreds of teams that are just, like Anatoly said, like eating glass to go acquire users and educate them on DeFi, get them to understand what it means to move their financial life into a protocol-based financial system. And we are really only paying attention, as Toly said, to like.
So some of them are sleeping at our office.
Yeah, there's like brothers and cousins and old coworkers and colleagues and families and people sleeping in offices and people at the hacker house. Like it probably smells terrible in there. That's what we dreamed of. Like this is the dream. It feels like what Y Combinator the early days must have felt like, and that's what we were just striving for so long, and it's happening. And NFTs are a thing on Solana. Really only started in maybe June. Metaplex is kind of the centerpiece of it. 2.2 million NFTs. It's around $1 billion of NFT market cap on Solana. And it's all organic. I think the thesis there was that at a time when there was big IP coming on chain, and there were kind of limited releases at very high price levels, the thesis was that this is going to explode and everyone's going to become a creator. Everyone will become an artist. Everyone will want to sell. They'll want to control their experience, and they'll want to do it at low prices with low fees, and they want it to be fast. And that thesis has played out faster than we possibly could have imagined.
So that graph basically matches the user growth in Phantom. And it's really amazing because DeFi is where everyone thought, like the core important thing about blockchain or crypto was DeFi. But humans just like to have fun, right? Like every time you get a bunch of people together on the internet, they start like just making memes and enjoying and having a good time. And to me, that's like the exciting part about crypto. When do we get to that stage when that number of people is like 10 million, 100 million, and it's just people having fun, sharing culture?
Yeah, the moment when, I think we all kind of look back. It was DGen Ape Academy, right? That everything was breaking. There were hundreds of thousands of people showing up. The Discord was just lighting up, like fireworks. And that was when, I think everyone collectively realized, like, all this hard work of these, sweaty DeFi engineers building the new, capital markets rails on blockchain. It's supercharged by something beautiful. People just having fun and making art and enjoying themselves and feeling like they belong to something, even if it's just, cartoon apes, which is just, a beautiful thing to see. And I think, like Anatoly said, I don't know what the world's going to look like when 1 billion people are doing that, but I know it's going to happen. Audius is another, incredible growth story. We first, talked to Ranil and the Audius team when they had, I think, 45,000, wait list people, and they've just been growing like a weed. They've kind of saturated the electronic dance music space. It's decentralized Spotify, for anyone that isn't familiar. And another, beautiful story, right? Users are sick of having their music taken down on all these platforms, having DRM rights expire and the music goes away. artists having record labels come in and do takedowns because they had a sample of something 3 remixes ago. Audius is censorship resistant. It needs it. It needs the performance. Every like and listen and playlist edition is on chain. And they're, I think they could be one of the biggest music streaming platforms in the world. And, they could only do this because Solana existed. And that's a really amazing thing to know that you're able to help enable. We want to see 100 of these types of applications. Solana devs, this is like the heart and soul. Can I get a show of hands, like who's a developer here?
Woo!
Yeah? Beautiful. I would have expected that all of you were at the Hacker House, but you're here. Yeah, no, I mean, it's growing like a weed. It seems like developers love Solana. They understand, why.
I love eating glass. I don't
yeah,
know
they're
why.
eating glass. Yeah, and I think that is also shown in kind of the team formation. It's not just people poking around and and forking code bases. They're building businesses. This is really important. I think early on our focus was to say we don't want people just toying around with it and then going back to their FANG job chained to a desk. We want them to start a business and take the swing of their lives to change the world the way that we all came to Silicon Valley to do. And the hackathons have been showing that. Teams are showing up at levels that we did not expect. When we did the first one in November, we thought nobody was going to show up, and if they did, that they wouldn't be able to get anything off the ground. But some really important projects got started there. So that one I think was maybe 50 teams, and then there was in March about 100 teams. In June there's about 350, and this recent hackathon, the Ignition Hackathon, had 570 teams form. And from what we're hearing, it's hard to really pin this down, but before the hackathon ended, about 100 of those teams were already starting their fundraising process, and many had already closed. And by this point, there's probably several dozen companies from that last hackathon that have raised over $1 million in funding. So, what's the goal? We want 1 million of these developers, right? We're around 1,000x away from that, but we've seen 1,000x's in our lifetimes a number of times, and we've seen some 1,000x's in crypto and in this ecosystem. And there isn't a timeline here, but when we think about how quick we want to see this, it's like as fast as fucking possible. Because if we're going to get to 1 billion people, we need a meaningful amount of people just throwing themselves against the world's biggest problems and seeing how censorship resistance and openness and permissionlessness can solve those problems. And like we've been saying a bunch of times, we want to see 1 billion people using the network, but importantly, we want them to have their own keys and have their own custody of their own assets. We think that when people explore 3 or 4 different use cases of things that they were doing in their normal life that didn't use this technology, they'll start to piece together, just the same way that when you use your first 3 to 5 internet applications or mobile applications that really became part of your daily pattern. All of a sudden your mind started to shift and think about how the world could look differently and how you could participate in it and how you could build it. So we want to get there as fast as possible.
There's a world of difference between using AOL keywords and clicking on a link, right? And really browsing the web. And that's the difference between self-custody and using a centralized service. So that world where we have governance, right, human coordination globally with cryptography, that world really needs those people to understand what that seed phrase does and how to store it. So teach your friends.
Cool. It's again hard to keep track of this, but by our estimates, there's been over $2 billion of venture capital that's flowed into the Solana ecosystem to support this growth of developers and this march toward 1 billion users. And it's now at this point, basically every major traditional investor and every major crypto investor which is incredible to see. It's been unifying, and we're also trying to contribute and throw weight into the right areas. So we recently announced a $100 million gaming fund between Solana Ventures and Lightspeed and FTX. If you're building gaming applications, definitely get in touch. This is part of a number of ecosystem funds that have been started by different constituents of the crypto industry because they see what's happening and they want to support and get exposure to everything that's happening in the Solana ecosystem. So, $431 million that we know of in ecosystem funds. One of them will be announced at this conference. That's $50 million. And here's a few of the logos that we've seen coming into the ecosystem. It's amazing. I mean, I think a lot of these investors are the foremost trend spotters, and they have seen so many cycles, and they know what makes a successful business. And they're seeing that in this ecosystem, some of the most generational businesses of the next 10 years are going to get built. Because these entrepreneurs are unlocked, and that's just a dream. So Solana Foundation has also been supporting this growth and especially censorship resistance and validator node growth with grants. So 130 plus grants, 1.7 million SOL. A bunch of that was when it was cheaper. Solana Ventures has already made over $25 million of investments, 75 of them, and Solana Labs is supporting entrepreneurs with reference implementations, open source, that they can use to bootstrap their applications.
It's Bartosz, basically.
Yeah. So what's coming up? I mean, I tweeted this recently. We're not going to be presenting a roadmap here. This is not, a look into the future of the Solana network evolving. There's work to do, but the hardest challenges are behind us. This network scales, it supports users, they can onboard. We're seeing really good conversion, really good retention, right? Like if we just look back to the classic metrics, it's just time to grow the thing. So what you're going to be hearing is, mostly from the people that are just building on the network and what they're building, what their vision is, and it's starting to get really, really incredible, really visionary stuff, big swings that could really change the world if they work.
Yeah. Also, we suck at planning. So we call it fire-driven development.
How can you plan in the blockchain industry? Everything changes, in a month. So some of the folks that you'll hear from, Phantom, Pith, Metaplex, Neodyme, Serum, Arweave, Audius Saber, kind of it hasn't been that long, but these are a lot of the mainstays.
Please talk to Neodyme if you're building. You don't want them to talk to you first.
Neodyme does auditing, and they're great. Some new folks though, Render. I won't go through all of these, but Render, Neon, Alexis Ohanian from 776, and the founder of Reddit, Nansen, and Brave, Brendan Eich, who was CEO of Mozilla and creator of JavaScript, BetDex, which is started by the former founder of FanDuel. There's incredible people coming into this ecosystem, and they have wonderful things to announce and talk about. There's also a sweet NFT drop. So People Pleaser is finally, launching a project on Solana. Follow the @SolanaConf Twitter handle to learn more. But it's going to be really fun, a really awesome celebration of this time in Lisbon and the growth of the Solana ecosystem. And there's an interactive component. It's called the Collector for a reason. You wanna collect them all. And we'll have a sweet closing party with Boys Noise and others. The vibe's gonna be pretty chill. Tolly's a surfer. This whole thing is gonna feel like a little bit like Burning Man. And we hope to see you there. Tolly and I will be there, and we can close this out and celebrate the year and and everything that's been accomplished. It's been, just blood, sweat, and tears, and I think it's okay to take a moment to celebrate and meditate on that success and have, some shared experiences that we can all look back on as we plan the next chapter. So here's some ways to get plugged in. If you follow, Solana on Twitter and the Solana Conf Twitter handle, I think you're pretty well covered. And just remember to have fun. It's like really important.
Yeah.